And I want to start with you, Kerry, because your story is pretty amazing to me. Can you talk a little bit about, how you got here?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, tell a little bit about your story.
yeah. Like you said, I'm living over here in Boise, Idaho. I was my father was in the military, and so then he retired and he decided that he was going to move to Idaho at that time. So I was raised here. I went to high school here. I stayed and went to college here. I started a family here in Boise, Idaho, and I also tested positive in Boise, Idaho. And I've also was incarcerated in Boise, Idaho. And I'm a criminal HIV criminalization survivor. And I was trying to do the math, and it'll be 18 months since my release next month. It'll be 18 months. And Idaho has a HIV criminalization statute. I'll never forget the number, Idaho Code 39608. And I was convicted for not telling my sexual partner, my girlfriend at the time, that I was living with HIV. I like to phrase it a little differently. I couldn't prove that I told her that I was living with HIV, which is a little different. There was no transmission. There was I used a condom. On my version, we had the conversation. I did everything that we're told that we need to do, and the media frenzy and the stigma behind it was just intense. And so I
Mhm.
was originally sentenced to a 15-year sentence, and then I got in there and went to work. Tell you the truth, brothers, I refused to go down with that being my legacy. I had a when I was incarcerated, I had a 14-year-old. He was 14 years old at the time, and I start thinking, and what's it going to be like? What's it going to be saying? I didn't think I was going to see the other side on a 30-year sentence. Going in it at 45 years old. And
Right.
so I was really what do I want this to be? What do I want my legacy to be? And I just went to work. I started learning as much as I can, not just about HIV, but also about the legal system. And I was able to file what Idaho calls a commutation. It goes to the parole commission, and based off the work and a lot of blessings from God, that they saw fit that I was able to move on. And as I'm also with Zero Project. Zero Project is one of and the worldwide we lead the fight against HIV criminalization. And
Hmm.
I was contacted, so that was probably like 13, 14 years. So while I was still incarcerated, I worked with Zero Project at that time, as I was a board member with the Zero Project, and I was able to really get the message out. And at first, I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know,
Hmm.
my personal history, if we back up a little bit to that, like I said, I tested positive for HIV in 1988. I was getting ready to graduate college, and my goal was to join the military after I got my degree. And a part of the enlistment process is there was a test for the immunodeficiency virus. And tell you the truth, back in '80, I didn't even know what it was. You know, and I got the call back, and they said, "Yeah, you've come in contact with someone who had the HIV virus." And I didn't know what they were talking about. To tell you the truth, I mean, as naive as that was, and it's sad to say that in hindsight, but I thought there was something else, and I would just get a shot and go about my day. And
Right.
they broke it down a little bit more, and I just still didn't understand what they were talking about. And then they said, "Oh yeah, that's the virus that causes AIDS."
Mhm.
That I'd heard about. I had heard
Mhm.
about AIDS before, and I was like, "How that's me?" And the biggest thing I remember, at least what I recall them saying, is when you remember the old what was that the
Mhm.
Peanuts cartoons when the teacher was like, "What?"
Oh,
But I
mhm.
all I heard was "What 6 months, what maybe a year, maybe 2 to 3 years if you're lucky." And then, is there anything else we can do for you? And
Yeah.
of course, the weight of that, I was like, no, I'm good. I walked out. I called my sister. Then I called my parents, went over to their house, and I really started making plans to die. I believed them that, and I share all the time that I didn't take a sober breath for probably about a year.
Mhm.
6 months to a year, I didn't take a sober breath, and I made my peace, which I thought I had made my peace,
Mhm.
and was ready to go. And there was just this older gentleman in the program in AA came by the door and said, "We got to get you to the clinic." And I got to the clinic, and I'm snotting and tears, and this is it. I'm at my 6 months, almost a year, and I'm sure
Right.
that. And Dr. Kevin Clifford, I'll never forget this man's name. And he came in and he kind of was laughing, and I'm thinking, what you laughing at? This is it. Everything that the military doctor said is happening right now.